No one wants to be dealing with build issues when they're making a game. So I'm going to show you 3 things. How to run a Unity build from the command line so you can get more debug information. I'm going to talk to you about the best way to resolve these build issues. And then I'm going to step you through an example of a build issue I had to solve using those steps. First, let's install the right Gradle. So we want to identify the right type of Gradle your Unity project is using. So you're going to go to the lib folder of your Unity's Gradle. Now have a look at these files. You can see a version number on the end of them. Now go to the website for the Gradle releases and find that version, and then download it and install it on your machine. Then do these steps to open up your environment variables and add the bin folder to your path. Then restart your terminal or your PowerShell or whatever you're using. Let me do that in slow motion. First press the Windows key, type in env. You'll see you'll get this option here called edit the system environment variables. Press enter. You'll get the system properties pop up and just click on environment variables and then look at your system variables and your path here and click on edit. Now to add Gradle, all you want to do is, well, I'll just do it here. I'll just copy this because I already have Gradle added. So just double click on the next empty line and paste in the path to your Gradle bin folder. If you find anything useful in this video and you want to support me, please check out the links to my games in the descriptions. That would really help me. Now when you want to troubleshoot a build fail, you can run debug or stack trace on the end of your build command to find out more information. This is a really useful thing to do. Now to run your build, now open your terminal to the folder where your build.gradle file is, and you can start running your Gradle builds from here, like this. So there are things you should know before you start to resolve build issues. First of all, verify you actually have a problem and verify that you know exactly what that problem is. To do this, clear your logs, do a clean build, resolve your Android dependencies, clear the logs and build your game. Do this once or twice to make sure you know the issue you're seeing is the same and it's consistent, and write and record the build issue so you know what you're working towards. The next thing you should do is back up your game. The reality is you're going to break something and you need to be able to get back to where you started from. Because when you start messing with builds and dependencies, you can put Unity into an awful state where you're resolving Git issues that I think you'd really rather not have to do this. Now technically you can use source control and Git for this, however from reading the Unity forums, I kind of think that a lot of people don't have their Git set up correctly with the right git nor and stuff, so you're going to end up running into tricky situations with resetting your branch and reverting and checking out an older branch. So I would suggest just copy and paste your project and keep the original. This is also going to be really useful because once you solve this issue, you're probably going to want to verify your steps so you know exactly what you've done. Now the next thing you want to be aware of is time. The bigger your project, the more dependencies and the more time it's going to take to build. This means build issues can take a long time to solve because generally you're waiting to build your game and to test it. I'm going to show you a build issue in a couple of seconds, and that took me a couple of hours to solve. Most of that time was spent waiting for builds and waiting to actually test my game to make sure it was working correctly. The other thing that's going to slow this down, if you have a really complex build issue like what I had where I had to update several different packages, you have to take each package or build issue one at a time. For instance, I encountered several problems that I had to resolve when trying to do this update. In other words, you can't just take a buckshot at all issues at once, or at least, you know, if you do and it works, you probably just got lucky. You kind of have to take them one at a time because you want to know exactly what you're doing to resolve each issue, because chances are you're going to run into that issue again. When you have build issues, it's usually stopping you from doing something you want. No one wants to be troubleshooting build issues. It's not why people use Unity, and it's not what people want to do when they're making games. This is a really important point to understand because for most casual developers, it's going to be the least understood aspect of Unity. Now, Stack Overflow, Unity forums, they're all great tools, but just because someone in a forum post says that they resolved something because they did some strange piece of Unity settings magic, does not mean that's going to work for you. In fact, that might not work for them because they might not know how they actually resolve their problem. Because if people are just buckshotting through build issues, they might not really know the exact steps they made to solve their issue. This means when something goes wrong, a lot of people won't know the root cause, and if you just start buckshotting configuration settings in Unity like that, you're going to put your game into an unknown state that you're not really sure why you have it there. And then as you start to add more features onto your game, You're going to end up with a bunch of settings changes that you don't understand that may lead you to have build issues in the future. Let me show you what I mean with a basic example of problem solving. When you watch this game being played out, the idea is I'm trying to get the moon into that little black hole over there. And I'm moving these clouds around so it can bounce off them. And sure, I'm able to get the moon across the screen and through the obstacles, but I don't have enough of these clouds to get it all the way to the end. But no matter how much I reconfigure these clouds, there's no way that moon is getting into that black hole. Because the problem isn't really here. The problem is back here. I need to rotate this a little so I can make the moon just get a little closer to the barrier. And then from here I can reconfigure a path and I can get it across much easier. If you're only worried about solving the problem where you see it manifest, you're not really understanding the root cause of the problem. And once you understand that, you're going to have a far more effective solution. This is why I love this game. Now, in saying that, you do need to know what other people have done because somebody could actually have solved it. You just need to be a little skeptical when it comes to system settings. So I would advise read the forums, digest it, but also read official documentation. Look for upgrade or migration notes of plugins, or look at the change logs in packages. That's eventually how I figured out which versions work together. Google was telling me it was going to pull my game off the App Store if I didn't resolve two issues. It wanted me to target Android 34 and it wanted me to move to Google Billing 6.0.1. So first I took a copy and paste of my project, and yes, I did try the buckshot approach. I tried to resolve everything in one foul swoop. It did not work, but that didn't matter because I could just delete that project and recopy my project again. So I had to go from Android version 33 to 34 and I needed to update Google Billing 6. Problem is, I don't directly use Google Billing. Google Billing is a transverse dependency from the in-app purchasing package that I'm using. Now, in build terms, a transverse dependency is a dependency that comes into your project through another dependency. And there's ways in Gradle where you can force dependencies to work with different versions like this, or you can leave them out. But I would generally advise against starting there because you don't want to go into an unsupported path. In other words, don't put your project into a state where you're using an unsupported build configuration, because it's going to be more headaches for you later on. I went to the docs and forums and I just played around with some test upgrades to different versions just to get familiar with the problem. I even tried to force an install of in-app purchasing 4.12 on a 22.2.2 build, but it just didn't work. So I did some research on the official docs and I looked at the change logs and I discovered that 4.12 was supported on 22.3, and I was really grateful of that because I really didn't want a major upgrade of Unity. So I came up with this plan. First I installed 2023, then I did a deploy to my phone. Originally the deploy failed, but I actually know what this issue is. It's a build issue with not having my password in. I was well aware of this problem and I got over it pretty quickly. I did another build and I think I got some other build issues on this, but eventually I got it working. Next I upgraded the build target to 34. This had to be done anyways. So I downloaded the Android API 34 and I moved it to where the rest of my Android APIs are stored. And I did the upgrade and this worked. Lastly then, I went to my package manager and I noticed that my in-app purchasing was ready to upgrade to 4.12.2, which suits me. Now on one of my test upgrades, I noticed that I had to go to 4.9, but since doing the Android upgrade to 34 and the Unity upgrade to 22.3, I think 4.12.2 was just available in Package Manager, because in previous tests I think I only saw 4.9. So I thought I was going to have to force an upgrade to 4.12 somehow. Now I also noticed during one of my test upgrades that I was getting this ironsource plugin warning. It was telling me that it was old and it should probably be upgraded. So I figured now I had to upgrade the plugin. Now this really scared me at the time because last year when I was trying to get in-app purchasing and ironsource working together, it was giving me so many build problems. And because it's been like a year since I resolved those problems, it wasn't fresh in my memory. And I was running out of time till the end of the month to do this upgrade. But it turned out that the ironsource migration document they created was pretty reliable and the upgrade went really smoothly. And in the end, everything worked fine. Now when I was recording these steps again, I realized that this seemed really easy because from your perspective, you just watched me solve this with no problems. But getting to these right steps took me hours of work because I had to figure out what versions worked with what, and there was a lot of research done in the background. But hopefully for you, this will go smoothly. Now if you want me to do another video on another topic, let me know. And if you found anything helpful here and you'd like to support me, please check out my mobile game. It's free and that will really help me.